My name is Walt Kitson, and I'm here to share with you an awesome God story. It's a story about the power and the importance of prayer. My wife Carolyn and I first met Homie about 3 years ago. On a Sunday after church, we went to Costco, and having shopped, we were sitting there having lunch at the tables, and the tables were all full. We're sitting there, and a man of Middle Eastern descent walks up to our table and says, "May I sit down?" All the tables are full. He picked us, he sits down, and I noticed that he's wearing a cross. I asked him, I said, having introduced ourselves, I asked him, "Tell me about your cross." And he said, "It's quite a story." He said, "I'm a Christian. I was raised in Islam, and I was a true believer and follower of the faith. I married within the faith, and over time I watched as my wife changed. My wife became tender, and I couldn't deny the love that she began to share in our family. It spread to our two daughters, and perplexing to me, it was because they had received Christ into their lives. I couldn't deny the power of it and the effect of it, and I too became a Christian. He said, "I go back and forth, though we've lived here in the United States for many years now, I go back and forth between here and my old homeland. And I do that several times a year, in part in my business and in part to share the good news." He said, "Recently when we went, we got to customs, and I was separated from my wife and daughter. And they pulled me aside and they said, 'Homie, we know about you.' And he says, 'If you have any information, any materials that go against Islam, you are in serious, serious trouble. And you need to tell us right now, before we go through your suitcase.' Homie confided to us that his suitcase was filled with Bibles. Homie looked at them and he says, I have nothing to say." They went through the suitcase. They found no Bibles. They released Homie, let him go through. He was reunited with his family. He went to the hotel, opened up his suitcase, and there's the Bibles. We were at a Bible study 3 weeks ago. We concluded our Bible study. My wife Carolyn and I were driving home along Federal Way, and Carolyn was remarking about our awesome God. She said, "Remember that man that we met at Costco?" I said, "Yeah, that was Homie." She says, "Yeah, wasn't that an amazing story?" I got up the next morning and I went to the men's prayer breakfast. As the study concluded in prayer, my mind began to wander. I was thinking about the balance of my day. I was thinking about the fact that I needed to drive out to Eagle and visit with an insurance agent that morning. And as I'm thinking about it, a voice speaking right into my spirit and into my mind said to me, "You know, Homie's new offices are right there off Eagle Road. Stop and pray for him." I contemplated that for a moment, and in my mind I said, "Lord, those offices are highly secured. I'll never get past them to see him." The voice said, "Say to them, tell Homie a brother is here to pray with him." Well, I'm kind of taken back by this, and I turned to two of the brothers sitting right there at the table. I turned to Dave Martin and to Mike Billings, and I said, guys, you know me. Listen to this. We told you in a Bible study some time ago about Homi Panahi. I said, God just said to me, stop at his offices on Eagle Road on the way to my appointment and pray for him. And when I dismissed that, kind of thinking that I could never get past the guards, God said to me, tell Homi that a brother is here to pray with him. I said, Mike and Dave, you guys know me. Tell me what you think. Dave looked at me and he said, go. Mike looked at me and he says, let's pray. And so we prayed. I left the study. I decided I would stop by home real quick because I remembered that Homie had given me his business card some 3 years before. I drive out to Fairview. I turn there by Cincy and go to the second building, a new building, plate glass building, beautiful. I walk up to the reception desk and I said, good morning, I'm here to see Homie Panahi. And she looked at me and she says, do you have an appointment? And I said, no, I don't. She said, well, Homie only sees people by appointment. He's a very busy man. I looked at her and I said, tell Homie a brother is here to pray with him. She cocked her head and she looked at me and she looked at me some more. And by this time, the gal that was on the telephone had concluded her call, and the receptionist turned to this gal and she says, here, take over the telephones. The receptionist walked around behind me, walked up a stairway, and I could see her go up to the second level behind some plate glass. Homie and the receptionist came down the stairs. And as Homie walked toward me, there was faint recognition. He knew me, but he didn't. He came to me, and I introduced myself and our experience in Costco, and he remembered. And I said, Homie, God told me to come here and pray with you. We went in, we sat down in the reception, or in the conference room, kind of renewed our acquaintance, and I said to Homie, Homie, God told me on the way here to pray for your family in Iran, to pray for your daughter's health, and to pray for your business. And he says, well, that's interesting. He said, because I'm leaving next week on business, and I'll be in Iran for a month. I have important business to transact there. I said, I have several businesses there, and I'm going to transition those businesses over to my Iranian counterparts there. The Iranian government is not happy about it, and there will be issues. He says, it's very, very difficult times over there right now. And so we prayed for his business transactions. Having prayed for that, I said, now, Homie, God said to pray for your daughter's health. And he said, yes. Yes, my daughter's under a great deal of stress. And we should also pray for her two kids, our grandkids. He says, because they've been experiencing a lot of anxiety. He says, they've been away from their dad for 2 years now. He says, the kids go to events and things where other kids have their dads and they have no dad. He says, you may have seen my daughter on local TV. She's been interviewed a number of times. She's been on national TV and interviewed nationally. And recently she met with John Kerry. And it was then that I realized, and I said to Hami, I said, your daughter is married to Pastor Saeed? And he says, yes. And so we prayed for his daughter. We prayed for Nagme, and we prayed for the grandkids, the two kids without their dad. He says, we must pray that God's will be done and God be glorified. And he said it with such conviction and such trust in God that he has forever changed my attitude about praying for God's will. I had thought it kind of a soft prayer. But in that moment, I knew that there was just such power when you pray for God's will and you fervently desire what he wants into a situation. And so we prayed for Pastor Saeed Abedini.